Prime Minister Mark Carney seems to have a knack for wooing politicians from different parties to his team. This time he scooped an Ontario MPP to run in an upcoming by-election. But she's getting torched by the NDP. Joining me now to discuss is Celina Caesar-Chavannes, John Capobianco, and Jennifer Howard is joining us from Ottawa. Jennifer, we're going to start with you. You were the chief of staff for former NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. Now, interim federal NDP leader Don Davies is accusing Ontario NDP deputy leader Dolly Begum of damaging democracy. She's announced, of course, that she's running federally as a Liberal in the Scarborough riding that's being vacated by MP Bill Blair. What are your thoughts on that comment?
I mean, I understand that comment. I'm hearing a lot of the same things from many New Democrats who either worked to get her elected or gave money to her campaigns, a huge sense of betrayal from people. And so I understand that. I think, she just ran in January provincially, from all accounts, has been doing a good job and is satisfied with the work that she's been doing. So I understand why people would question her motives. But I also want us to remember that this happens. It happens in all parties, in all directions. I think, in the recent British Columbia campaign, a federal Liberal left to join the provincial NDP to run there. So, I don't want us to read more into it than is likely the case.
What I do find interesting, though, is this isn't a floor crossing, it's a party crossing. But it does seem like Mark Carney is able to scoop candidates from both parties now, and I don't recall seeing that very often in the past.
And this is the telltale sign of a really good leader. Like, Mark Carney is able to draw that attention in, but it also kind of creates, as unstable as this is, it actually has people thinking, okay, what does the future look like? Can I be with a party that's going to be stable enough to achieve what we want? And what we want is what's best for Canadians. And I think Mark Carney's approach, his wisdom, his kind of demeanor is attracting people that say, I do have a good job already where I am, but I want to be part of a team that's in for the long haul in a very tumultuous time for Canadians.
John, do you see any negatives to this?
Oh, I see a lot of negatives, quite frankly, and notwithstanding the fact that the Prime Minister might be able to attract other people to his party and to his government, I do think that, and I've always had a dislike for floor crossers for a number of reasons. I actually agree with Don in some ways, which is surprising to say, but not so much that it's a slight against democracy, but when you get elected and you're running for a specific party and you believe in the party's policies and you have the volunteers and the fundraisers that believe in you and believe in the party, for you to give that up, for whatever reason it is, it seems a height of opportunism. And I do think that you let your constituents down and your fundraisers down and, quite frankly, your party down. And for you to go from a provincial NDP to a federal Liberal, I think is actually quite opportunistic. And I would say there's a poll that Nick Daniel's done recently that most Canadians actually do not like floor crossers. They want people that, if they're going to cross the floor, sit as an independent or resign your seat and run in the new position. And I think that's something that they should be considering.
So let's talk about Carney. He's one seat shy. Now, I know Blair, he has to have a by-election, but one seat shy of actually having a majority. Should he try and get more floor crosses? Do you think that's the plan? Are more waiting in the wings? Or are we going to perhaps have an early election?
I would say, no, Celina, I would say, that I think there's going to be an election, probably an early one. I think it actually behooves the Liberals and the Prime Minister where he is today with the polling numbers the way they are. He's also going to lose a couple of other caucus members. So he is going to be shy of a majority government by a number of seats. And whether or not by-elections are always tricky, he might lose that seat to a Conservative.
Jennifer, you're in Ottawa, so I don't want to keep you out of this conversation. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, if I'm sitting in the Liberal war room, I'm saying, let's go. I don't think it gets better for them. I think it only gets worse, because I think right now, people are very focused on Donald Trump and the threat that he is presenting not only to Canada, but around the world. But also, people are experiencing trouble making the rent and paying for groceries and worried about their jobs. The more those worries become front and center, the harder it is for Mr. Carney to win a majority. So I think we'll be in an election sooner rather than later.
Interesting.
And NDP crossing aside, he already has somebody on the ground in Freeland's riding, knocking doors. They're ready ready. The Liberals are ready, and we don't have Conservatives or NDPs on the ground working. So I would say, like,
the NDP don't even have a leader
I
right
don't even
now.
have a leader. But the challenge is are they ready? They're ready. They're poised to win. They're poised to set the stage or set the agenda for what happens with Canada. They have people on the ground who are already, Danielle Martin's already knocking on doors. So you know what? The time is now. Strike while the iron is hot.
I want to talk about Stephen Harper. And he is urging both Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre to come together, to work together when it comes to dealing with Trump and the threat of separatism. I find this fascinating that he is coaching both of them or discussing it with both of them. And Mark Carney has already said that Harper has been good in speaking with him. What are your thoughts on that, John?
Well, I would say I'm a huge fan of Stephen Harper. And full disclosure, I actually ran as a candidate under his leadership when he first formed the party back in 2004. And I think he's been a tremendous prime minister. And even to this day, I think those who might not have liked him then really see him as a leader and as a really thought leader kind of prime minister, and former prime minister. So
there's some nostalgia there too.
There is
right?
a lot of nostalgia. So I'm really happy for the portrait unveiling and for all the celebration he's getting. But I would say that I'm not surprised by the sage advice that he's giving. He's been like that ever since he left the prime minister's role, where every speech he's been at, either an international forum or domestic forum, he's always given some level of counsel. And for him to say that the two parties should get together, the two leaders should get together and talk about what is an existential threat to Canada, I think is smart. And we're seeing that with Pierre doing that with the meeting with the prime minister.
Yes. Yeah. Jennifer. Your thoughts?
Yeah,
on this?
I mean, I am a big fan of working together. I think that's what Canadians expect of their politicians. I do think that, for Pierre Poilievre, he has to build some trust with Canadians. Canadians don't see him as somebody that they can trust to be the prime minister, and this is an opportunity to do that. I also think he does not want to give the Liberals an excuse to go to an election because he is being obstructionist. I was around during the pandemic, and there was remarkable cooperation between the parties. I think when the chips are down and the country is in dire straits, as it was in the pandemic, as we might be facing now, politicians can work together, and that's what Canadians demand of them. So I mean, I never thought I would say this, but I think Stephen Harper was right to make that call.
It's interesting because Stephen Harper openly supported Poilievre during the last election, took some shots at Carney. So let's talk about Poilievre. He just healthily won his leadership with an 87%. But I will add, that was based in Alberta with the party faithful there. Was it a true reflection of how all Conservatives, well, John, you can tell me that too, but I suspect also his road is going to get harder, not easier after that leadership review.
It's definitely going to get harder. I'll leave it to you to talk about the Conservative perspective. But from that base, what he did is basically say, the base is solid. Like, we got those votes. But I think
he does have a really good core base.
He does have a really good core base. The challenge going forward is the illusion that he's chasing. He's not even chasing a shadow anymore, in my opinion. I think he's chasing an illusion of what he needs to do to win an election. And that illusion is to move more to the center, a Conservative more to the center that can attract Canadians. And unfortunately, we already have somebody named like that. His name is Mark Carney, right? So
many people say he is a conservative leader.
So the illusion that Pierre is going to have to change, he has an identity problem. He has an identity problem, and he's going to have a strategy problem as well. So there's going to be a real tough road for him to get to win an election.
John's
at
listening
any time.
intently. I'll let you have the last word.
I would say this. I think that he won unbelievably decisively, and I think that isn't important. Notwithstanding the fact that it was in Alberta, but there was 2,800 delegates from across Canada who went there and gave him a huge sign of approval. So I do think that he now has wind in his sails going into the next phase. But I do think that he's now going to be into the prime minister in waiting mode. So he had to, after the election campaign, find a seat, which he did. He won, got into parliament, and then had to fight this leadership review vote, which he won. So now that he's got the party behind him, he now has to be this prime minister in waiting. And I think you're going to start seeing a lot of that, notwithstanding the fact that he's meeting with the prime minister today. His party's already passed or fast-tracked the Liberals' Grocery Benefits Act to help Canadians. So I do think there might be a little bit more collaboration and a lot more understanding that beyond the Conservative base, and we all support Pierre very much, he now has to reach out to Canadians who were once with him, might have left him, but will come back to him.
He does have to grow.
Yeah, and I do think that the Prime Minister has a big challenge as well, because he's got to face whether or not he can cut a deal with the Americans, and that's going to be what Canadians will judge him on is he able to do the deal with Trump? Is he able to get our costs down?
I also think that Poilievre is very good about calling out domestic issues.
Definitely.
And he has put the Liberals on edge and made them adopt some of what he has been calling for a very long time. So it's going to be very interesting to see. So if you were all betting people, I'm going to end on this note. What do you think the odds are of an early election, say in the spring? Jennifer?
Yeah, I mean, I think 100% if the spring, if not the spring, then certainly before the end of the year. I think waiting is to Mark Carney's detriment at this point, because I don't think there has been a lot of action on the domestic front. People's housing costs aren't down, grocery bills aren't down. So he's got to go while people are still worried about Donald Trump more than they're worried about their monthly bills.
Celina?
I agree for the same reasons, and also because the Conservatives and the NDP in particular are slipping and sliding. So he has that traction. He might as well take it and run with it while he has it.
John?
I would say 80%, and I say that because I think he has to have a
Spring
narrative.
or by the end of the year?
Well, I would say probably 80% on both.
Okay.
But I would say because he needs a narrative.
Can you do that, 80% on both odds? I'm not sure, but okay, I'll let that
Well, I
slide.
would say 80% that there's going to be an election this year, for sure.
Yeah.
But I would say only because he needs a narrative to go to Canadians. Because if his poll numbers change, and poll numbers can change quite quickly depending on how things react, he has to have a narrative. Just going for the sake of getting a bigger majority is going to work with Canadians.
It's not going to work.
That's right.
I agree.
Okay, on that note, thank you all very much. We are going to have a lot to discuss this year. Thank you for joining us. And Jennifer, thank you from Ottawa.
Thank you.